Hello again, gamers. Welcome back to the Board Game Captain. I'm the Captain, and today I'm going to be talking about and reviewing Fists of the Ruby Phoenix Adventure Path, Book 1, Despair on Danger Island. So I want to start by giving a big thank you to Paizo for sending me this book to check out and review. Thank you, Paizo. And I do want to say, before I get too into this, I've got a ton of links in the description down below that you can check out at your leisure. There's a link to BoardGameCaptain.com, which is a great hub for all things Board Game Captain. And Lynn and I have started doing some semi-regular blog posts over there. There's also a link to my Teespring store. You can get yourself some cool gamer gear, some Board Game Captain merch. And there's a link to my Patreon if you're in a position to and would like to support the channel, all in the description down below. All right, so Despair on Danger Island. So first off, this is book 1 of 3. It is a 3-book series. And this is a series of high-level adventures, which is kind of interesting. A little bit different than some of the other ones I've reviewed so far. So you are meant to be level 11 when you start this adventure, which means you can do this one of two ways. You could either do some standalone adventures or some adventures of your own design until your characters get to level 11. And this doing it this way has the advantage of having the characters really being comfortable with their own characters and fully knowing both their own characters and the other's players' characters. Or the other way you can do it is you can jump right into it having designed characters to already be level 11. Now the advantage to that is you can immediately jump into this adventure, but then, all your players are probably going to be playing characters that storyline-wise have known each other for years in actuality, they've all just been introduced to each other's player characters and don't really know them very well at all. So, I mean, there's positives and negatives to the two ways you could play this adventure, and that's going to be up to you how you want to run it if you want to run it. So, what is this adventure? So, Despair on Danger Island is the first part of the Fists of the Ruby Phoenix. Now, this is an adventure path where your famous team of adventurers has been invited to a fighting tournament, but instead of a one-on-one fighting tournament, it's teams of heroes and adventurers that are showing up to take part in this adventure to possibly win not just renown, but also amazing magical prizes, which is really cool. So the theme kind of reminds me a bit of a lot of classic martial arts movies. Think Enter the Dragon, or more modern video game stuff from the 90s and 2000s. You could think the Mortal Kombat series, except instead of being one-on-one fights, again they're team fights because you all get to do it as a group, and that's really cool. The theme is really interesting. I like it a lot. But in addition, there's also a more mysterious background plot going on involving the organizer, the Ruby Phoenix, her character, and some background storyline that will slowly be revealed to you. I don't want to reveal too much here because I don't want to do spoilers. I'm going to keep this mostly spoiler free so that anyone watching this could still play this and be thoroughly surprised. So you get into the book and you have the introduction, and then you get into once you get past the introduction, you get into the first chapter, which is Welcome to Danger Island. So again, now the adventures in here play out with you showing up for this tournament. You have lots of fights, but you also have, you have some dungeon crawls, and you have some other, some monster encounters and ghosts and all sorts of cool things that you can run into. I don't think I'm spoiling much here. Chapter 2 is Survive, and Chapter 3 is The Empress at the Top of the World. So there's a lot of combat, definitely a lot of combat in these first 3 adventures. But there is also some problem solving and some talking. There's reoccurring villains. There's reoccurring friendly rivals or potential allies, and there's some very interesting characters in here, which is really cool. And there's a lot of ways to overcome certain struggles without actually having a fight. So overall, I would say the 3 parts of the adventure in here are really good. I do really like that. Next, we have the Ruby Phoenix fighting roster. So for this, it goes over some of the major teams that were either only minorly introduced in the storyline here or weren't introduced at all, but it kind of goes, well, these guys are going to be major teams. You might want to have them show up. They're not going to be major parts of events in the first book, but they're going to be major parts in books 2 and 3. So you're probably going to want to have them show up so you can use them for a bit of foreshadowing. And it goes into a lot of detail, these different fighting teams in the groups. So that is really cool. And then The final chapter in this book is the Adventure Toolbox. So now the Adventure Toolbox has a ton of material in here, either directly related to stuff going on in this adventure path, or in some cases just things that you might want to throw in. And it's really, really cool. I like the Adventure Toolbox in the back of this one a lot. So the first thing we've got here, we've got some feats. One of which is directly introduced into the story. It was mentioned in one of the adventures, but the others aren't. There are other feats, though, that you could possibly wind up with during this adventure path. Next, we have some cool magic items, a lot of which are directly introduced and are pretty interesting and unique. And we have like level 20 magic items that you're going to get access to. These things are really interesting. Next, we have a bunch of new types of weapons, a lot with an Eastern flair, because this is an Eastern themed sort of adventure. A lot of the characters in here very much have Chinese or Japanese flavoring. Of course, they're from the parts of Galarian that are fantasy equivalents to China or Japan. And that is really cool. I like the Eastern flavored weapons, and they go with other Eastern flavored weapons that are not necessarily specifically flavored on China or Japan. For instance, they have some Maori weapons in here, which is pretty cool. I'm a big fan of that. I like bringing in weapons from lesser known cultures in regard to combat styles, and that is really neat. We have new spells, we have new archetypes, we have the butterfly blade archetype, because there are some specifically Chinese flavored fighters that use butterfly swords that are in here. There's the Ghost Eater archetype, but these are things now that your character can take. There's a new species of humanoid in here that you will meet some NPCs of, and there's a bunch of new monsters, many of which are going to show up, but some of which may just be in here because they're similar to stuff that's going to show up. And I always love when they add in varieties of new monsters. I don't want to give away too much on the monsters because you may wind up fighting them. And then there is a major NPC who only really shows up in the third of the 3 adventures in here, but will become a major part of the storyline in the future adventure books of the Fists of the Ruby Phoenix. And they're fully fleshed out. Their whole backstory is in there in case you need it. Really well done. Overall, I really like the Despair on Danger Island book. I think this is a really fun book to add to your collection. I think this is a cool book to run for a high-level adventure, or like I said, if you have already been running lower-level adventures and now your characters are 11th level and you're not really sure what to do with them, this could be a cool adventure to start. In addition, this is a great adventure to give you ideas on how to come up with adventures of your own. Because a lot of this adventure is formulated like a sandbox style adventure, which is very different and unique. They give you a map of the island and they tell you where you can explore and what you can do and what you can find there. And then you can just sort of like turn your players loose and let them, they've heard some rumors, they've heard some stories. They can go explore where they want, do what they want. They've met some NPCs. They can interact with them if they want. And if they don't know what to do, you have a bunch of NPCs that you can have show up and challenge them to duels and such as that is. And that's all really cool. And this could be a great toolbox for helping you to design your own similarly styled campaign. In addition, the adventure toolbox in the back is full of amazing material. Again, new species, new monsters, new weapons that you can pull out of here and drop into another Eastern themed campaign, which again is really, really cool. So overall, I'm going to give Despair on Danger Island, part 1 of 3 of the Fists of the Ruby Phoenix Adventure Path, 8 out of 10 stars. I really like this one. I think it's really cool. I can't wait to check out actually the future installments and see where this storyline goes. I'm not going to be running this one right now because my current Pathfinder group is specifically running a different adventure path. But this is one I could see myself doing in the future, possibly. I do quite like it. I think the artwork in this is really nice. As always, this is a soft cover, but full color book. Really nicely done, and it sells for $24.99, which I think is a decent price for the amount of content you get in this book. So there you have it. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns on this book, feel free to put them in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this review of a role-playing game product and you'd like to see me do more like it, be sure to give this video a like, share it on all forms of social media. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Board Game Captain. That's Captain spelled with a K on YouTube. And until next time, Game on.